When sharing information with clients about their personal rights, such as informed consent and client confidentiality, social workers have an opportunity to begin building rapport right away. When social workers employ negative behaviors such as monosyllabic tone of voice, interrupting the client unnecessarily, and reassuring prematurely, they can have the ability to cut off at the knees what could have been a positive working relationship. Speaking in a monotone voice, especially when explaining clients' rights, makes a client feel like they've been lumped in with everyone else who sat in that chair before them, and it doesn't make them feel comfortable sharing personal information. Even when informing a client of their rights, which can be very boring if read directly from a pamphlet or if they're just having a pamphlet tossed at them, the social worker needs to present the client's rights in a warm and personal manner, explaining them and stopping occasionally to ask if the client needs any further clarification or if they have any questions. Reassuring that the client that everything will be all right is a way of avoiding helping the client explore their frustrations and their feelings. It offers the promise of a solution that seems closer than it may actually be. Reassuring the client that if they follow the rules, that everything will work itself out. That doesn't help the client. It helps the social worker calm the client down in the short term, but long term can cause frustrations when the client does not get the results that they were so-called promised. In clearly going over the client's rights, informed consent, and client confidentiality, the social worker lays the guidance for what the client can expect, who the social worker can talk to about the case and release information to, and when the social worker is mandated to report an issue. Interrupting a client can happen often when the social worker is attempting to get information from them or to keep the client focused if they're rambling. This is not always a bad thing, but when a social worker interrupts in order to clarify an off-topic point or to disagree with their client, it becomes rude and annoying. In order to avoid interrupting unnecessarily, focus on interrupting only when the client rambles on and on about the same thing over and over. Then the social worker can summarize what the client is saying by leading in gently with, "Let me interrupt, Mr. Smith, to see if I understand correctly. You are saying that you do not want what is said between you and me to be discussed outside this room. Is that correct?" This serves as clarification and allows the client to explain those areas that the social worker just brought up. This will then allow the social worker to further explain their rights, consent, and confidentiality in a way that is more understandable. My philosophy on the importance of clients understanding their rights is that it is critical in developing trust with their social worker. It enables the client to understand the process that they will be going through and what other resources are available to them other than their social worker. It also gives another form of accountability to the client and the social worker as well, knowing that there's a system in place there to support them both, almost separate from each other. Effective words are used to help social workers better understand the emotions that the clients are feeling, and also to help the clients better understand the emotions that they are feeling. For example, if a client is stating that he feels pissed that his wife doesn't do anything around the house and then doesn't talk to him when he gets home from work, the social worker can say, "What I hear you saying is that you are feeling taken for granted by your wife. Is that correct?" Another example of clarification of feelings would be if the client said, "I don't know why my kids were taken from me. I don't feel like I was doing anything wrong, and no one has told me anything since my kids were taken." The social worker can respond with, "What I'm hearing is that you are bewildered by what's going on right now. Does that sound accurate?" And lastly, if a client stated that it was messed up that CPS banged on my door in the middle of the night to take my kids and woke up my neighbors, now everyone knows my business and they're asking me questions. The social worker could help the client explore her feelings more by saying, "So what I'm hearing is that you feel really embarrassed by how the agency handled your case. Is that correct?" All of these examples make it clear that an extensive vocabulary, knowledge of the language of social work, and accurate explanation of rights is critical in developing a positive rapport with clients.